speaking of movies.
That blew us away.
Yes, good job. Segue. We went and saw, just today, 10 Cloverfield Lane.
Yep.
Okay, so we're going to do a review of it. Before we get to our review, we'll kind of give some background. If you don't know what it is, because actually this movie was held a secret.
Very secretive, yeah. I think the trailer premiered Super Bowl. Was that the premiere?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, it premiered during the Super Bowl and took everyone by surprise. No one had any idea this movie was even in development.
Right.
It was under a secret title. No one knew what it was about. It's a very cryptic trailer. And it had the name Cloverfield in it, so everyone's like, oh my God.
Now, here's the thing. If you haven't seen Cloverfield, which I rewatched it again last night, catching up on old movies, it's a spiritual successor would be the closest thing I would say it is. It has nothing to
do with the story of that movie.
Yeah, so if you haven't seen the original Cloverfield, don't worry, just go see this movie.
Yep. And we're not saying that to be cryptic, because I saw interviews with Dan Trachtenberg, which is the director of the movie, and I always thought like,
He's saying
okay, guy.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
We're going to see the monster in this movie.
Yeah. And so the part of this, the reason I think they talked about they want like a Cloververse.
Yeah, they call it Cloververse, yeah.
But it has a similar tone to Cloverfield. It has a similar motif or theme.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, this movie, because we're not going to spoil anything, obviously, but it obviously is, it's a story of a girl who gets in a car accident and is brought to a underground basement and
a bunker, like a fallout shelter almost.
Yeah, and some stuff happens.
Hilarity ensues.
No, the opposite of that. Hilarity ensues. It's a buddy cop movie. Some stuff happens in the bunker, and basically she's trying to figure out a way to take care of herself. Is probably the best way I can explain it.
Yeah.
I will say that this movie is. One, because of how there was really not a lot of marketing, and they've talked to the actors. They're like, I was actually kind of worried. Like, are they going to put out this movie? I think it's incredible that they were able to keep it a secret for as long as they did. Because, I mean, you hear things about Game of Thrones, like, when they're filming Game of Thrones, like, they have to
Kit Harington hasn't cut his hair.
Right. Or, like, they talked about they have people on staff that, like, take people's phones and snap them in half. Like, no joke. So, good job. I mean, this movie was obviously not going to be, it's not on the scale of Independence Day, but it's also not a cheap movie. It's an expensive movie. So good on that. Good on Paramount. Good on J.J. Abrams. Good on Dan Trachtenberg. The big thing that I want to talk about in this is that Dan Trachtenberg directed this movie.
Oh my God, that is so cool to see.
Now, if you don't know anything about Dan Trachtenberg, go look him up on the internet. He co-hosted with kind of like it's a real big inspiration for our show. There's a show called Totally Rad Show. We loved it. It was they stopped doing it a few years ago. Great show. It was kind of what we do. They talked about movies. They talked about video games. They talked about board games. They talked about comics. And it was three guys talking about that stuff. And it's so cool to see. Because on that show, he always had an eye for, you talked about like
the cinematography, the directing, like that. He was the movie guy and had that vision for all these kind of things. So it's cool to see that vision coming up from doing a podcast like we are, and now he's directing this movie.
Yeah,
and small time guy. He directed a short Portal film a few years ago.
Yeah, it's really good.
Really cool. Kind of put him on the map on his style of directing and cinematography, like I said before. But it's just really cool to see like he's directing this huge movie with Bad Robot. And it's like, what, 91% Rotten Tomatoes?
Yeah, it's pretty much his big movie directorial
debut.
Yeah, so good on him. I mean, you made a fantastic movie. Well, let's get, now saying all that,
that bar is set though, man.
Yeah, that's all. Yeah, you come out the gate swinging. You got to make sure to have better ideas. Well, what do you always say? Your first joke is your second best joke, and then your last joke is your best joke.
Yeah, exactly.
So
you got to close with the best.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, I think we've talked enough about the movie. Let's put our hands out. We're going to do a standard review. Thumbs up is a great movie. Thumbs to the side is a good movie. And thumbs down is a bad movie. 1, 2, 3.
I mean, can I add more thumbs?
Okay, we put 2 thumbs up for both of us, or a thumb up for both of us, so 2 thumbs up. It is a great movie.
Fantastic.
Why? Why should people go see this?
So the biggest thing, like, if you saw the first Cloverfield movie, and
you enjoyed it.
Yeah, and you enjoyed it. Shaky cam aside, the style of the movie, the thrillness of the movie, parts of the movie where you're just like, you're clutching your, like, there were parts in 10 Cloverfield Lane where I was like,
I audibly went, oh my God. Yeah. I don't do that very often.
And you were like the only person the whole time.
I was in the office like, oh my God.
But where you're kind of white knuckled at the edge of your seat. It's so tense.
Yeah.
There are definitely a lot of moments like that. And I like those movies. And there are it's not scary. It's just really thrilling. And there are definitely twists in this movie, just like Cloverfield. Like Cloverfield was one where it's like, we don't want to show the monster until like the very end,
You're right.
Like, what is it kind of thing. And that definitely has this vibe where you don't really know what's going on until the final minutes of the movie. And I really like that because throughout the whole movie, you're like, You know, is he telling the truth? What is he doing?
Right.
You know, what's going on? And obviously, I don't want to spoil anything, but just those tense moments and those twists, and you're just like, there's not many movies like this. Obviously, it's original too, which I really like. It's not a sequel. It's not based off anything. But I definitely like what they're doing with this Cloververse, you know, that he said, Cloververse, where hopefully they're going to have other movies that are like this, that fit that kind of same tone and theme.
Yeah, and so I'm not a big fan of scary movies generally. I don't like all of the, Exorcist, all that stuff. And it's not because I don't find them, they're good movies, but it just, sometimes it's the jump scares that I'm not a big fan of. But I enjoy, like we talk about with the best zombie narratives are the ones about the survivors. It's not about the zombies. It's about what would you do if you were in this situation.
It's about the characters. Yeah.
And the characters are relatable. Right. I would do that. I would do this. And also, this movie, as well as Cloverfield, takes the position of, back in the day when there was all those scary movies, you knew the bad guy was in the closet, the killer was in the closet, and you're like, don't open that door. You saw that before the character did. In these movies, you see through the eyes of the protagonist, so you don't know what's around the corner. Yep. So you don't get to do don't open that door. What are you doing? And I will say, like I said, I just recently watched Cloverfield, the original. The shaky cam I can't stand. I don't like found footage movies at all because of that. I mean, it's. I know you do, and because
JJ is Bay.
JJ is Bay, but I don't like the shaky cam. I get the lost found footage stuff. I appreciate the genre, but I'm so glad they didn't do that in this movie.
Right.
But it's interesting that Dan Trachtenberg, again the director, our boy, our buddy, talked about that he got inspiration from video games, and specifically, I think he talked about the Uncharted series. And there are times where it feels like a video game, or it feels like those tense moments in a video game where you're doing something and you can't really see. You could, it's the scene where you have the flashlight and then the flashlight kind of flickers
and you're looking around the room.
Yeah, you're looking around the room and then you're like, I don't want to turn around. You know what I mean? Like It definitely has those moments, and that's why that stylistic approach is interesting, because again, you don't know, you're seeing everything for the first time just as the protagonist is, and that is frightening.
Yep.
And it does a good job of being. The biggest comparison I can make of this movie is the movie Misery by Stephen King, Kathy Bates.
It's been a long time since I've seen that.
Fantastic movie. It has a very...
Right?
Yes, I'm your biggest fan.
Yeah.
It is incredibly unsettling, would be the word I would use for this movie. I mean, like I said, white knuckle the entire time. It is so much fun, though, because, again, the characters are relatable. The things that are going on in it are probably decisions you would make, put in that specific position. So again, cannot recommend people go see this, not recommend enough that you should go check out this movie.
Definitely.
Even if you don't like scary movies. Even
it's
if you
not
don't
scary. It's just, it's tense, but it's not scary. There are a couple things you're like, but it's not jump scares like you see in those scary movies that are coming out these days, So there's not really any jump scares, it's just really tense, and those twists and those kind of movies where you didn't see it coming. I love those. We don't get too many of those these days.
All right. Go see Cloverfield.
10 Cloverfield Lane is the name of the movie, actually.
Oh, that's what I meant. 10
But
Cloverfield.
go see the first Cloverfield too. But again, reiterate, they have nothing to do with each other.
I think that's an important thing. And I think, obviously the name recognition is important, but you don't need to see the first movie. But go see the first movie, Cloverfield.
Yeah, why not?